Pay my wife's $300K debt tomorrow. My son's voice shattered the midnight silence.
Loan sharks, he said.
Life or death, 24 hours. I'm Robert Hayes, 64 years old, retired pilot who spent 35 years keeping planes in the air and passengers safe. I trusted my instruments, my training, my judgment through every emergency you can imagine. But nothing prepared me for this. I wired every penny I had. $300,000 from a lifetime of careful saving. Then I discovered the truth, and the envelope I left behind destroyed everything they thought they knew about their stupid old man. In chess, the king looks helpless, but sometimes that's exactly where you want your opponent to think you are. This story has more betrayals than a poker game in Vegas. And if you've ever wondered how deep family deception can go, you're about to find out why sometimes the people closest to you are the most dangerous. The call that changed everything came at 11:23 p.m. on a Tuesday. I was sitting in Margaret's chair reading her old letters like I'd been doing every night since she passed 3 years ago.
The call came on a Tuesday night.
I was reading Margaret's old letters, something I'd been doing more since she passed 3 years ago. The grief counselor said it was normal. What wasn't normal was my 32-year-old son calling me in tears at nearly midnight. "Dad, you have to listen to me." Nathan's voice was shaking. "Pay my wife's $300K debt tomorrow."
The loan sharks called.
"They'll break Lauren's legs if we don't have the money by 5 p.m.
My coffee went cold.
$300,000. That was nearly a quarter of everything I had saved from 35 years flying for American Airlines.
Slow down, son. Tell me what happened.
Lauren got in deep with some poker site.
Real deep.
These guys don't mess around, Dad. They know where we live. They know about our kids. I could hear Lauren crying in the background. Or what sounded like crying.
How did it get this bad?
She was trying to win back what she lost. You know how it is. Just kept getting deeper.
Dad, I'm scared. Really scared.
I thought about Margaret. What would she do? She always said, family comes first.
Always.
Okay, Nathan, I'll handle it.
You will.
The relief in his voice was immediate. Dad, I can't thank you. We'll figure out the details tomorrow. Which bank account should I use? Mine, the one at First National. Dad, you're saving our lives. After I hung up, I sat in Margaret's chair. 35 years of careful saving. Every overtime shift, every holiday worked, every vacation we didn't take so we could build something for retirement, for emergencies. I guess this qualified as an emergency. But as I stared at Margaret's picture on the mantel, something nagged at me. Nathan had always been good with money. Not great at keeping jobs, sure, 6 failed business ventures since college, but careful with spending. Lauren, too. She'd been a bank teller before they married. How does a bank teller get $300K in debt without her husband knowing? Wednesday morning, I drove to First National. The branch manager, Mrs. Rodriguez, had been handling my accounts for 15 years. She knew about Margaret's medical bills, knew about the life insurance, knew I was living on my pension and savings. That's a substantial transfer, Mr. Hayes. $300,000 is a lot.
I know.
I slid the paperwork across her desk. Family emergency.
She studied the forms.
Wire transfer to Nathan Hayes, your son. His wife has some gambling debts.
They need help.
Mrs. Rodriguez's pen paused over the signature line. Mr. Hayes, I have to ask, have you spoken to anyone about this?
A financial advisor? Your attorney?
It's my money, isn't it?
Of course.
I just want to make sure you understand the tax implications. A transfer this large.
I understand.
I signed the papers. How quickly can this process?
By 2 p.m. today.
But sir, once this wire goes through, it's done.
I know.
Walking to my car, I thought about Nathan's childhood. Little league games where he'd strike out and blame the umpire. School projects where Margaret and I did most of the work. The time he crashed Margaret's car and somehow made it our fault for not teaching him to drive better. But he was our son, our only child. Margaret had tried for years to get pregnant again after Nathan, but it never happened. He's our miracle baby, she used to say. Maybe that's why we always made excuses for him. Nathan had moved back to Dallas 5 years ago with Lauren. We'd helped them with the down payment on their house, $50K from our savings. Margaret insisted. Family helps family, she said. Then there was the $15K for Nathan's consulting business that never quite got off the ground. The $8K when Lauren's car broke down and they couldn't afford repairs. The $12K when Nathan lost his real estate job and couldn't make mortgage payments for 3 months. Each time Margaret had squeezed my hand and said they'll pay us back when they can. They never did, and we never asked.
But this was different.
This was everything we had left. My phone rang as I pulled into my driveway. Nathan, Dad, did you go to the bank?
Just finished.
The wire will go through by 2 p.m.
Thank God.
I can't tell you how much this means. Lauren's been crying all morning. Nathan, I need to ask you something.
How did this happen?
$300,000?
A pause. She started small. $10, $20.
Then it became hundreds.
Then thousands.
You know how gambling addiction works.
I didn't actually.
Margaret and I had been to Vegas exactly once for our 20th anniversary. Lost $50 at the slots and called it quits.
These loan sharks, what's their name?
Dad, you don't want to know these people.
Trust me.
If I'm paying them $300,000, I think I have a right to know.
Another pause. It's complicated.
Different organizations. Look, the important thing is we're handling it. After he hung up, I sat in my driveway for 20 minutes. Something felt wrong about this call. Not just the amount, though that was staggering, but Nathan's answers.
Too quick, too rehearsed.
I thought about the last time I'd seen them.
2 months ago, at Sunday dinner.
Lauren had been on her phone most of the time, playing some kind of card game. Nathan kept checking his watch like he had somewhere else to be, but they'd seemed fine, happy even. Lauren had shown me pictures from their weekend trip to Austin. Nice hotel, expensive restaurants. How do you afford weekend trips when you're $300K in debt to loan sharks? At 1:45 p.m. my phone buzzed. Wire transfer confirmation. $300,000 moved from my savings to Nathan's checking account at First National. 35 years of work gone in an electronic instant. I should have felt relief.
My son was safe.
My daughter-in-law wouldn't get hurt. We'd solved the crisis.
Instead, I felt hollow.
I decided to drive to Nathan's house, not to check up on him, just to see if everything was okay.
Maybe bring dinner.
Margaret always brought food during stressful times. Their neighborhood was nice, upper middle class, houses worth $400,000, $500,000. I'd always wondered how they afforded the mortgage on Nathan's irregular income, but young couples today seem to manage things differently. I pulled up across the street from their house at 3:30 p.m. Nathan's car was in the driveway, a 3-year-old Honda Civic. Practical, reliable, the kind of car you drive when you're being careful with money. But parked behind it was a brand new BMW sedan, bright red, still had temporary plates. I sat there for 10 minutes staring at that BMW. Base model BMWs started around $50,000. Loaded ones could hit $70,000, $80,000. My phone rang. Nathan, Dad, I can't thank you enough. The wire came through. We're handling everything with the sharks today.
That's good, son.
Lauren's so relieved.
We both are.
You saved our family. Nathan, whose BMW is in your driveway?
Silence.
Then BMW.
Red sedan. Temporary plates.
Oh, that's Lauren's sister's car.
She's visiting.
I thought Lauren's sister lived in Portland.
She does.
She's visiting for a few days.
Look, Dad. I need to run.
The sharks want to meet in an hour and I need to get the cash ready. After he hung up, I watched the house. No activity, no signs of people preparing for a dangerous meeting with loan sharks.
No nervous pacing. No cars coming and going. At 4:15, Lauren emerged from the house.
She was smiling, laughing, actually, talking on her phone. She got into the BMW and backed out of the driveway. She drove straight to the Nordstrom at North Park Mall. I followed at a distance, feeling foolish but unable to stop myself. In the parking garage, I watched Lauren walk into the mall carrying a designer handbag I'd never seen before. She emerged 2 hours later with 6 shopping bags.
Designer shopping bags. My phone buzzed. Text from Nathan. All handled.
Sharks are satisfied. Thank you for saving our family. I sat in that parking garage until almost dark, watching Lauren load her purchases into the BMW. 6 bags from stores I'd never been able to afford. Nordstrom, Neiman Marcus, some boutique whose name I couldn't pronounce. On the drive home, I called my old friend Mark Sullivan. We'd flown together for 15 years before he retired and started his own private investigation business.
Robert, what's going on?
It's been ages. Mark, I need to ask you something hypothetically. If someone owed money to loan sharks, would they go shopping the same day they paid the debt?
Loan sharks? Mark laughed.
Robert, people who deal with real loan sharks don't go shopping.
They go into hiding.
Why?
Just curious. Robert, you okay? You sound I'm fine.
Just wondering about something I saw on TV.
But I wasn't fine.
I was starting to realize I'd made the biggest mistake of my life, and I needed to know how deep this went. Thursday morning, I called Mark Sullivan back. Mark, remember that hypothetical question yesterday? I need your help for real this time.
What's going on, Robert?
I told him everything. The midnight call, the 300K transfer, the BMW, the shopping trip. When I finished, Mark was quiet for a long moment. Robert, this sounds like a setup, a sophisticated one.
My own son wouldn't.
Your son might not even know he's being manipulated. Gambling addiction makes people desperate. Desperate people do desperate things.
So, what do I do?
You hire me to find out what's really going on. Full surveillance, financial background checks, the works.
It'll cost you how much?
$8,500 for a comprehensive 30-day investigation.
Worth every penny if I'm right.
$8,500. 2 weeks ago, that would have been a big decision. Now, after losing $300,000, it felt like pocket change.
Do it.
I'll need signed contracts, payment up front, and Robert, don't confront them about anything.
Act normal.
Let me gather evidence first. By Friday afternoon, Mark had preliminary findings. Robert, we need to meet, not over the phone. We met at a diner near his office. Mark spread photographs across the table between us. This is Lauren's real poker account. Poker stars live. I have contacts in the industry. The screenshots showed betting history, wins and losses, current balance. She owes $12,340, not $300,000. I stared at the numbers. $12,000. Robert, Poker Stars Live doesn't use loan sharks. They're a legitimate online poker site licensed in Nevada. When players can't pay, they suspend accounts and send the debt to collection agencies. But Nathan said, Nathan lied. Or, Lauren lied to Nathan. Either way, you've been scammed.
The diner suddenly felt too hot, too bright.
I'd been flying for 35 years. I prided myself on attention to detail, on reading situations correctly. How had I missed this?
There's more. Mark pulled out another folder. Lauren's credit report.
She's been applying for credit cards, personal loans, auto financing, all within the last 6 months.
What does that mean?
It means she's been planning something big. People don't suddenly start borrowing unless they're either in serious financial trouble or preparing to make major purchases.
Like a BMW.
Like a BMW. Robert, I traced the purchase. She bought it Tuesday afternoon, same day your wire transfer went through. The timeline hit me like turbulence at 30,000 feet. Nathan calls Monday night. Wire transfer goes through Tuesday at 2 p.m. BMW purchase Tuesday at 4:30 p.m. She bought it with my money.
Part of it anyway.
The down payment was $20,000.
Financed the rest.
I pushed the photographs around the table trying to make sense of it all. Mark, what kind of people am I dealing with? I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out. In the meantime, you need to act like everything's normal.
Don't change your routine. Don't ask questions. Let me do my job.
And if you're right, if they really did scam me, then we gather evidence and take it to the authorities. Wire fraud is a federal crime, Robert. Especially when it involves elderly victims. Elderly victims.
Is that what I was?
On the drive home, I thought about Margaret.
She'd have been heartbroken, but not surprised.
Margaret always saw people more clearly than I did. She'd warned me about Nathan's girlfriends before Lauren. Something about her doesn't sit right, Margaret had said after their first family dinner. But I dismissed it as mother-in-law jealousy.
That evening, Nathan called. Hey, Dad.
How are you feeling? Yesterday was pretty intense.
I'm fine, son.
How are things with you two?
Much better.
Lauren's like a new person now that the stress is gone.
I'm glad.
You both deserve to be happy. Dad, I was thinking maybe we could have dinner this weekend. Lauren wants to thank you properly.
That sounds nice. Great. Saturday night.
Lauren's making her famous lasagna. After we hung up, I sat in Margaret's chair and tried to imagine that dinner. Sitting at their table eating food prepared by someone who'd just stolen $300,000 from me, making small talk, pretending everything was normal. But if Mark was right, that's exactly what I needed to do. I picked up Margaret's picture from the side table.
What would you do, sweetheart?
Margaret had always been practical, methodical. When Nathan had gotten in trouble at school, she didn't yell or lecture. She gathered facts first, then she acted. Gather facts first, I said to her picture.
I get it. My phone buzzed. Text message from a number I didn't recognize. Mr. Hayes. This is Mark's assistant. He asked me to tell you, Phase 1 complete. Phase 2 begins tomorrow. Stay strong. I had no idea what Phase 2 involved, but I was about to find out. Mark's first full report arrived the following Tuesday via encrypted email. He'd taught me how to access it. 40 years of flying commercial aircraft, and I was finally learning about digital security from a private investigator. The report was 37 pages long. Professional photographs, financial records, timeline analysis, behavioral observations. Subject: Nathan Hayes 32 and Lauren Hayes 30. Investigation period: 7 days. Preliminary findings: evidence of coordinated financial fraud. I read it 3 times before the full scope hit me. Mark had documented every movement, every purchase, every phone call he could legally monitor. The picture it painted made me sick. Tuesday, the day of my wire transfer, Lauren visited 3 different car dealerships before settling on the BMW. She'd been shopping for cars for 2 weeks, according to the sales records Mark had obtained. Wednesday, Nathan deposited $50K into a separate savings account at a different bank, Chase, not First National. The account had been opened 3 weeks ago. Thursday, Lauren made a $15K payment on credit cards that had been maxed out for months. Friday, Nathan researched real estate listings in Florida, expensive ones. Beach properties in the $600,000 to $800,000 range. These aren't the actions of people who just escaped loan sharks, I said aloud to my empty kitchen. These are the actions of people planning a new life. My phone rang. Mark, Robert, did you read the report? I'm still processing it. There's something else, something I couldn't put in writing. Can you meet me today? We met at the same diner. This time, Mark looked grim. Robert, I've been doing this for 20 years. This isn't simple fraud. This is sophisticated, planned elder abuse. Elder abuse? The phrase hit me like a physical blow. I'm 64 years old. I'm not elderly. Legally, you are. Anyone over 60 is considered an elderly victim for federal fraud statutes. The penalties are much harsher. Mark opened his briefcase and pulled out a small recording device. Texas is a single-party consent state for recording conversations. That means if you're part of the conversation, you can legally record it without telling the other person. You want me to record my son. I want you to protect yourself. Robert, if this goes where I think it's going, you're going to need evidence. Real evidence. He handed me the device. It was smaller than my thumb. Voice activated. 48 hours of recording time. Completely legal. I stared at the tiny machine. Mark, what if I'm wrong? What if there really were loan sharks and this is all just coincidence? Then you'll have recordings of your son thanking you for saving his life. Nothing wrong with that. And if I'm right, then you'll have evidence of wire fraud conspiracy. And that's a federal crime with a 5 to 10 year sentence. That evening, I tested the recorder. It was incredibly sensitive. Picked up conversations from the next room through closed doors. I thought about Margaret, about all the time she'd trusted her instincts about people, even when I disagreed, about how she'd known something was off about Lauren from the beginning. I should have listened to you, I said to her picture. Saturday night came, dinner at Nathan and Lauren's. I wore the recording device in my shirt pocket, feeling like a spy in my own family. Lauren greeted me with a hug that felt genuine. If she was acting, she was good at it. Robert, I can't thank you enough for what you did. You saved our lives. The lasagna was excellent. The conversation was normal. Family gossip, work stories, plans for the holidays. But I noticed things I'd never noticed before. The way Lauren and Nathan glanced at each other when they thought I wasn't looking. The way Lauren's eyes lit up when she talked about starting fresh somewhere new. The way Nathan steered the conversation away whenever I asked about the debt situation. After dinner, I helped Nathan clear the table. In the kitchen, he lowered his voice. Dad, I need to ask you something. Do you have any more accessible funds, like liquid savings? My blood pressure spiked. Why? Well, we got the main debt handled, but there are some additional fees, processing costs. You know how these people work. How much? Maybe 50, 60,000. I know it's a lot to ask, but let me think about it. Of course, no pressure. It's just these guys don't like loose ends. On the drive home, I realized 2 things. First, this wasn't over. They were planning to come back for more money. Second, they thought I was a complete fool. Maybe I was. But if Margaret had taught me anything, it was that fools can learn. I called Mark from my kitchen. They're going for more money.
Nathan just asked for another 50 or 60,000. That's actually good news, Robert.
Good news.
How is that good news? Because now we know their pattern. They start with a crisis, take a big chunk, then come back for additional fees.
It's textbook elder fraud.
What's my next move? You say yes, but this time we're ready for them.
Ready? How? Phase 3, Robert.
We're going to catch them in the act. Mark's Phase 3 began Wednesday morning with a phone call that changed everything. Robert, I've got the recordings from your dinner. You need to hear this. I met him at his office. He'd enhanced the audio, isolated background conversations I hadn't even realized were happening. This was recorded while you were in the bathroom, Mark said, pressing play. Lauren's voice crystal clear. He's buying everything. Robert's so trusting it's almost sad.
Nathan's response.
Dad's always been a soft touch. Remember when Mom was sick? He spent $80,000 on experimental treatments that weren't even covered by insurance.
That's different.
That was for Margaret.
No, it's the same pattern.
He throws money at problems instead of thinking them through. My hands were shaking. Mark paused the recording.
Robert, you okay?
I wasn't okay. I was listening to my son and daughter-in-law mock my devotion to my dying wife. Margaret's cancer treatments hadn't been throwing money at problems. They'd been desperate attempts to save the woman I'd loved for 30 years. There's more, Mark said gently. The next clip was from later that evening after I'd left. Nathan and Lauren cleaning up in the kitchen. Lauren, how much do you think he's really worth?
Nathan, the house is paid off.
Worth maybe 400,000. Plus, he's got at least another $1 million in retirement accounts and savings.
So, we've gotten what? A quarter of it. About that. But we need to be smart.
Take too much too fast and he might get suspicious. He's already suspicious. I saw him looking at my car. He's not suspicious. He's just careful. There's a difference. Mark fast-forwarded through several minutes of casual conversation. This next part, he said, this is where it gets really ugly.
Nathan's voice.
The key is making him feel needed. Dad's been lost since Mom died. He wants to feel like the hero, like he's protecting family. Lauren, it's almost too easy.
That's the beauty of it.
He wants to believe we need him. Mark stopped the recording. 48 minutes of audio total. All of it legally obtained. All of it admissible in court. I stared out his office window, watching normal people live normal lives on the street below. People who weren't discovering that their only child was a sociopath. Mark, what kind of person does this to their own father? A person who sees family relationships as transactions. Robert, I've investigated a lot of fraud cases. Most are strangers targeting strangers.
Family fraud is different.
It's more personal, more devastating, and usually more sophisticated.
He pulled out another folder.
Background check on Lauren. This is what really concerns me. The folder contained credit reports, employment records, criminal background checks. What I saw made my stomach drop. Lauren was fired from First National Bank 18 months ago.
Embezzlement.
They didn't prosecute because the amount was under 10,000, but she was blacklisted from banking. Nathan never mentioned that. Nathan might not know. She told the employment office she was laid off due to downsizing. But here's the interesting part. She was specifically fired for accessing customer account information she wasn't authorized to see. The implication hit me immediately. She knows how bank transfers work. She knows exactly how bank transfers work. She knows the timing, the verification processes, the documentation requirements. Robert, this wasn't amateur hour. This was planned by someone who understands financial systems. Mark opened another file. Property records for their house. They bought it 5 years ago with a 10% down payment. $50,000 that you provided. But look at this. He showed me mortgage documents. They refinanced twice in the past 2 years.
Each time they took cash out.
Total amount extracted from the house equity, $120,000. Where did that money go? That's what I'm trying to figure out. It didn't go to paying down other debts. It didn't go into savings. It just disappeared. And I thought about all the times Nathan had asked for help over the years. The emergencies that always seemed to require exactly the amount of cash I had readily available. Mark, how long do you think this has been going on? Based on the pattern, I'd say since Margaret got sick. Maybe longer. The room started spinning. Margaret's medical bills, the experimental treatments, the hope we'd clung to in those final months. Had Nathan been calculating how to exploit my grief even then? There's one more thing, Mark said quietly. I found out about the loan shark story, where it came from. He played another recording, this one from Nathan's phone. Mark had obtained it through Nathan's cellular provider. Apparently, there were legal ways to access certain types of records during active fraud investigations. Nathan talking to someone named Alex. Just make the voice sound scary, okay? Like you're calling about a debt. Something about breaking legs if he doesn't pay.
Alex's voice. Dude, I feel bad about this.
Your dad seems like a nice guy.
Nathan, he is a nice guy.
That's why this works. Nice guys finish last, Alex. Nice guys get taken advantage of. Mark turned off the recording. Alex Carter, 29 years old, unemployed actor. Nathan paid him $500 to make scary phone calls. I sat in silence for several minutes, processing everything. 32 years of fatherhood, 32 years of love, support, sacrifice, worry, and this is what it had produced.
Mark, what happens now?
That depends on you, Robert. We have enough evidence for federal charges. Wire fraud, elder abuse, conspiracy. But pressing charges means testifying against your son. And if I don't press charges, they'll do this again. To you, to other elderly family members, to strangers. People like this don't stop, Robert. They escalate. I looked at the evidence spread across Mark's desk. Phone records, bank statements, recordings, photographs, a complete picture of betrayal, documented with professional precision. For the first time since Margaret died, I knew exactly what I needed to do. But first, I needed to let them make one more mistake. Mark's plan for catching them was elegant in its simplicity. I would act eager to help with the additional fees Nathan had mentioned, but I'd insist on meeting the supposed loan sharks personally. They'll have to improvise, Mark explained. And when people improvise under pressure, they make mistakes. Thursday afternoon, I called Nathan. Son, I've been thinking about what you said, the additional fees.
Dad, you don't have to.
I want to help, but I need to understand who I'm dealing with. These loan sharks, I want to meet them.
Silence.
Then, Dad, that's not how it works. These aren't people you meet for coffee. Nathan, I'm about to give them $60,000. I think I have a right to look them in the eye.
It's too dangerous. I'm a grown man.
I've been in worse situations than meeting some thugs.
Another long pause. Let me talk to Lauren.
See what we can arrange. An hour later, Nathan called back.
Okay, Dad.
They'll meet with you tomorrow night, 7 p.m., but you have to come alone and you have to bring cash.
Where?
The parking lot behind Romano's restaurant.
You know the place. I knew it.
Margaret and I used to eat there for our anniversary. The irony wasn't lost on me.
I'll be there.
Dad, please be careful. These guys don't mess around. That evening, I met Mark at his office to prepare. He equipped me with a wire, a more sophisticated recording device that would transmit everything in real time to his surveillance van. Robert, if anything feels dangerous, anything at all, you say the code word Margaret and I'll call the police immediately. It won't get dangerous. They're not real loan sharks, remember? No, but they might panic when they realize they're trapped. Panic people do stupid things. Mark showed me photographs of the restaurant parking lot taken during his reconnaissance that afternoon.
I'll be here.
He pointed to a spot with clear sight lines recording everything. Detective Ray Collins from the Financial Crimes Unit will be here. Another location ready to move in when we have what we need. This is really happening. This is really happening. Robert, are you sure you're ready for this? I thought about Margaret, about the nights she'd spent awake, worried about Nathan's future, about the money we'd scraped together for his down payment, his car repairs, his business ventures, about the $80K we'd spent on experimental treatments, money Nathan had mocked as throwing money at problems.
I'm ready.
Friday at 7 p.m., I sat in my car in Romano's parking lot. At 7:15, Nathan appeared walking from the direction of the restaurant. He approached my car alone. Dad, they're running a few minutes late.
Logistic stuff. Where's Lauren? At home.
This isn't really her scene. At 7:23, a beat-up pickup truck pulled into the parking lot.
2 men got out.
One was tall and thin, the other shorter and heavy-set.
Both looked nervous. The tall one approached my car. Mr. Hayes. That's me. I'm Tony.
This is about your daughter-in-law's debt. Tony looked like he was maybe 25 years old. His intimidating voice sounded forced, theatrical. Nathan tells me she owed you $300,000.
That's right.
But there are processing fees, administrative costs.
You understand?
I handed him an envelope containing $60,000 in cash. Money Mark had helped me withdraw that afternoon. This covers everything. Should do it, Tony said, clearly improvising. That's when Nathan made his fatal mistake.
Thanks, Alex. I owe you one. Alex, not Tony, froze.
Nathan realized what he'd said, but it was too late.
Who's Alex? I asked. Nobody. That's just what we call Tony sometimes.
But Alex was already backing toward the pickup truck, clearly wanting to get out of there.
Wait, I called out. Alex Carter. Alex stopped dead.
How do you know my name? Because my private investigator told me about you and the $500 my son paid you to make threatening phone calls. The color drained from Nathan's face. Dad, I don't know what you're talking about. I got out of my car, removing the wire transmitter from my jacket.
It's over, Nathan.
I know everything.
The real poker debt.
12,000, not 300. The BMW Lauren bought with my money, the fake loan sharks, all of it. Nathan's shoulders sagged. For a moment, he looked like the little boy who used to blame everyone else when he got caught lying.
Then his expression hardened. So what?
You gave me that money. Gift taxes are on you, not me. Wire fraud isn't a gift, son.
Prove it.
Prove I committed wire fraud.
I held up the recording device.
38 hours of recordings, phone calls, dinner conversations, planning sessions, everything. Alex had already gotten back in his truck and driven away.
Smart kid.
Nathan stepped closer to me. Dad, you're making a big mistake. Lauren and I are family. We're all you have left. Family doesn't steal from each other.
We didn't steal anything.
You gave us that money willingly based on lies, based on love. You wanted to help. You wanted to feel needed. His voice took on a cruel edge. Just like when Mom was dying, throwing money at problems to make yourself feel better. That's when I realized something that chilled me more than the fraud itself. Nathan wasn't sorry.
He wasn't embarrassed.
He was angry that he'd been caught. Your mother loved you unconditionally, I said quietly. And you're using that love against me.
Mom's dead, Dad.
And you're a lonely old man with too much money and not enough sense. But two cars pulled into the parking lot. Mark's surveillance van and an unmarked police car. Detective Ray Collins got out of the police car, badge visible.
Nathan Hayes.
Nathan looked from me to the detective to Mark, who was filming everything. Dad, don't do this. Please, we can work this out. Mr. Hayes, Detective Collins said to me, we have enough evidence.
Are you ready to press charges?
I looked at my son, 32 years old, married, no children yet, but maybe someday. Did I really want to send him to federal prison? Then I remembered something Margaret used to say. The cruelest thing you can do to someone is enable their worst behavior. Yes, I told Detective Collins. I'm ready to press charges. As they read Nathan his rights, I heard him say one last thing to me. You'll regret this, old man. Family is all you have left. He was wrong about that, but I was about to find out what I really had left. The arrangement was set for the following Wednesday. Nathan made bail, $25,000 that Lauren had to borrow from her sister. The irony wasn't lost on me. Detective Collins met with me Tuesday afternoon to review the evidence and prepare for the formal charges. Mr. Hayes, I want you to understand what you're looking at here. Wire fraud involving elderly victims carries a federal sentence of 5 to 20 years. Your son could be looking at serious prison time.
What about Lauren?
We're still building the case against her. Her banking background makes her the likely architect of the scheme. She might face even harsher penalties. I sat in the detective's office surrounded by file folders containing documentation of my son's betrayal, phone records, bank statements, audio recordings, surveillance photographs. Detective, is there any chance this could be settled without prison time? That depends on your son. If he cooperates, provides full restitution, and pleads guilty, the prosecutor might consider a reduced sentence. But given the amount involved and the sophistication of the fraud, I understand. That evening, I called my attorney, Janet Walsh. I'd been putting off the conversation for weeks, but it was time to protect what was left of my assets. Robert, given what's happened, I strongly recommend we restructure your estate planning immediately.
What does that mean?
Convert your revocable trust to an irrevocable trust. It removes the assets from your direct control, which protects them from future fraud attempts. It also ensures that if Nathan is convicted of elder fraud, he can't inherit anything under the Slayer statute.
Slayer statute.
It prevents people who commit crimes against family members from benefiting financially from those crimes. Think of it as a legal way to disinherit someone who's stolen from you. We scheduled the trust conversion for Friday. The irony was bitter. I was legally disowning my son to protect assets he'd already stolen. But there was something else I needed to do first. Wednesday evening, I drove to Nathan and Lauren's house. Not to confront them, but to retrieve something that belonged to me. I rang the doorbell. Lauren answered, looking exhausted. Robert, I don't know what to say. Is Nathan here? He's meeting with his lawyer. Robert, I'm so sorry. This got out of hand. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. How was it supposed to happen, Lauren? She invited me in. The house felt different now. Smaller, shabbier. The BMW was gone, probably repossessed when the loan payments stopped. We were in trouble, she said. Real trouble. Credit cards maxed out, mortgage behind, car payments overdue. Nathan's business wasn't bringing in enough money. So, you decided to steal from me. We decided to ask for help. The loan shark story. That was Nathan's idea. He said, if we told you the truth about our debts, you'd lecture us about responsibility. So, instead, you made me think you were in physical danger. Lauren started crying. I know how it sounds, but we were desperate, and you have so much money, and you're alone in that big house, so you thought I wouldn't miss $300,000. We thought we could pay you back eventually when Nathan's business picked up. I looked around their living room. Nice furniture, big screen TV, expensive art on the walls. These weren't the possessions of desperate people. Lauren, where's the ring? What ring? Margaret's engagement ring. The one I gave you last Christmas. I want it back. Margaret's ring had been in our family for 3 generations. Her grandmother's ring passed down to Margaret, intended for Nathan's future wife. I'd given it to Lauren as a wedding gift, trusting her to honor its history. Robert, that ring means a lot to me. It means more to me, and you've lost the right to wear it. She went upstairs and returned with a small velvet box. Margaret's ring, a simple solitaire, nothing fancy, but irreplaceable. I really did love Nathan, she said as she handed me the box. Past tense. I can't do this anymore. The lies, the schemes, the constant stress. I filed for divorce yesterday. That surprised me. You're leaving him. Robert, your son is a very sick person. This wasn't his first time doing something like this. There were other relatives, other emergencies. I can't be part of it anymore. I pocketed the ring box. Lauren, the prosecutor might offer you a deal if you cooperate fully. I know. My lawyer explained it. Full cooperation in exchange for reduced charges. Are you going to take it? I don't have much choice. On the drive home, I realized that Nathan was about to lose everything. His wife, his freedom, his family, his future. Part of me felt sorry for him, but a bigger part of me felt relieved. Thursday morning brought an unexpected phone call. Nathan calling from his lawyer's office. Dad, we need to talk. I thought your lawyer told you not to contact me. He did, but I fired him. I can't afford legal fees, and the public defender won't be assigned until after arraignment. What do you want, Nathan? I want to make this right. All of it. Can we meet? Against my better judgment and Mark Sullivan's explicit advice, I agreed. We met at a coffee shop downtown, neutral territory with plenty of witnesses. Nathan looked terrible, unshaven, hollow-eyed, wearing clothes that looked like he had slept in them. When I sat down across from him, I could smell alcohol on his breath at 10 o'clock in the morning. Dad, I'm sorry. Really genuinely sorry. Sorry you did it, or sorry you got caught. Both, I guess, but mostly sorry I hurt you. He looked like he meant it. For a moment, I saw the boy who used to crawl into bed with Margaret and me during thunderstorms. Nathan, why did you do this? Really? Not the desperate financial situation story. The real reason. He stared into his coffee for a long time. Because I could. Because you'd always bailed me out before. Because I knew you loved me too much to ever really hold me accountable. At least he was being honest now. And because he paused, struggling with words, because I was jealous. Jealous of what? Of how much money you spent on Mom's cancer treatments. $80,000 for treatments that everyone knew wouldn't work. Meanwhile, I'm struggling to make mortgage payments and you barely notice. I felt like he'd slapped me. You were jealous of your mother's cancer treatments. I was jealous that she mattered more to you than I did. Nathan, she was dying and I was living. I was your son trying to build a life and all you cared about was throwing money at a hopeless situation. The coffee shop suddenly felt too small, too crowded. Other customers were starting to stare. Your mother loved you unconditionally, I said quietly. Every day of her life, she worried about your future. And you're telling me you resented the money we spent trying to save her life. I resented that you had money for her experimental treatments, but not for my business loans. We gave you $50,000 for your house down payment. After I begged for months. We gave you $15,000 for your consulting business.
Loan.
You gave me a loan with interest because your mother insisted you needed to learn responsibility. Nathan laughed bitterly.
Responsibility, right?
But no interest charges on Mom's medical bills. I realized something that should have been obvious years ago. Nathan wasn't sick or desperate or temporarily confused by financial pressure. Nathan was fundamentally selfish.
He had been all his life.
And Margaret and I had enabled it by making excuses, providing bailouts, and protecting him from consequences.
What do you want from me, Nathan?
I want you to drop the charges in exchange for what? I'll pay you back every penny. It might take years, but I'll do it.
With what money?
You're unemployed, facing federal charges, and your wife is divorcing you.
Lauren's divorcing me?
I realized he didn't know. She filed papers yesterday. The color drained from his face. Did she tell you anything else?
Like what? Nothing. Never mind.
But his reaction told me everything. Lauren had information that could hurt him. And now she was cooperating with prosecutors.
Nathan.
The prosecutor offered Lauren a plea deal. Full cooperation in exchange for reduced charges.
She can't testify against me. We're married. Not for much longer.
And spousal privilege doesn't apply to crimes committed together.
He put his head in his hands.
Dad, I'm going to prison. Probably 5 to 20 years. That's what the lawyer said. Could be less if you cooperate fully.
Make complete restitution.
Show genuine remorse.
He looked up at me.
What would complete restitution look like? $300,000 plus interest, penalties, and my legal fees. Call it $350,000. I don't have that kind of money. Then you're going to prison. Nathan sat in silence for several minutes. The coffee shop buzzed with normal conversation around us. People discussing work, relationships, weekend plans, normal problems. Dad, what if I could give you something worth more than $350,000?
Like what?
Information about other people Lauren and I have worked with, other victims, other families. Lauren has a system she targets widowed elderly men through church groups, community centers, volunteer organizations. She's very good at it.
My stomach turned.
How many others? I don't know exactly. Maybe 6 or 7 over the past 2 years.
Jesus, Nathan.
The FBI would want this information, right? It might be worth something.
I stared at my son across the coffee shop table.
He was offering to betray his accomplices the same way he'd betrayed me to reduce his prison sentence. Nathan, do you feel any genuine remorse for what you've done to me? To these other families? He thought about it for a moment.
Really thought about it.
I feel bad that it ended this way.
Not remorse. Regret getting caught.
I stood up from the table. I'll let the prosecutor know you're willing to cooperate. Dad, wait. Are you going to be okay financially? The question surprised me.
Why do you care?
Because you're still my father. Nathan, if you had succeeded in stealing everything I have, what would have happened to me? He didn't answer because we both knew the answer. The plea hearing was scheduled for the following Monday. Nathan's cooperation with federal investigators had uncovered a network of elder fraud that stretched across 3 states. Lauren had been running sophisticated cons for almost 3 years, targeting recently widowed men through grief support groups and church communities. Detective Collins called me Friday afternoon with an update. Mr. Hayes, your son's information led us to 7 additional victims. Total damages over $2 million. This is going to be a major federal case. What does that mean for Nathan's sentence? Substantial cooperation could reduce his sentence to 3 to 5 years, but he'll have to testify against Lauren and her other accomplices. And Lauren, she's looking at 10 to 15 years. Her banking background made her the ringleader. She knew exactly how to manipulate elderly victims and exploit their financial systems. I thought about all the Sunday dinners, family holidays, birthday celebrations where I'd welcomed Lauren into our home. Margaret had been right about her from the beginning. Detective, I need to ask you something. If I hadn't discovered this, how long would it have gone on? Based on the pattern, they would have come back for more money every few months until you had nothing left. Then they would have moved on to another victim. Monday morning, I sat in the federal courthouse watching my son plead guilty to wire fraud and elder abuse. His cooperation agreement was part of the public record. Full restitution, complete cooperation with ongoing investigations, and a recommended sentence of 4 years in federal prison. Judge Patricia Hendrickson addressed Nathan directly. Mr. Hayes, Do you understand that you're pleading guilty to systematically defrauding elderly victims, including your own father?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand that your actions caused not just financial harm, but emotional and psychological trauma to people who trusted you? Nathan looked at me across the courtroom.
Yes, Your Honor. I understand.
Do you have anything you'd like to say to the victims?
Nathan stood up. I'm sorry.
I know that's not enough, but I am genuinely sorry for the pain I've caused. The judge wasn't impressed. Mr. Hayes, your cooperation agreement requires you to provide complete restitution to all victims. Do you understand that failure to comply will result in the maximum sentence under federal guidelines?
I understand, Your Honor.
After the hearing, Mark Sullivan met me in the courthouse lobby.
How do you feel, Robert?
Empty, relieved, sad, all of the above. Nathan will probably serve 3 years if he keeps cooperating. He'll be out before he's 40.
And Lauren? She refused the plea deal. Her trial starts next month.
She's looking at the full sentence. We walked out of the courthouse together into Dallas sunshine. It was a beautiful day, the kind of day Margaret would have insisted we spend working in the garden. Mark, I need to ask you something.
Was I a bad father?
Did I enable this somehow? Mark stopped walking. Robert, you were a loving father. Maybe too loving, but that's not a crime. Nathan made his own choices. Margaret always said I was too easy on him. Margaret was right about a lot of things.
But this isn't your fault.
That evening, I found an envelope slipped under my front door. My name written in Nathan's handwriting. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Dad, I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I needed to write this. I've had 3 months to think about what I did, and I finally understand something. I didn't steal your money.
I stole your trust. Money can be replaced. Trust can't.
I'm sorry for that most of all. I hope someday you can forgive me, but I understand if you can't.
I love you, Nathan.
I read it twice, then put it in the box with Margaret's letters. Forgiveness might come someday, but first I had some living to do. 6 months later, I was back at Romano's restaurant, not in the parking lot where I'd confronted Nathan, but inside having dinner with other volunteers from the Elder Advocacy Network. After Nathan's sentencing, I joined the organization that helped fraud victims navigate legal and financial recovery. It turned out that my experience and Mark Sullivan's investigation expertise made us valuable advocates for other elderly people who've been targeted by financial predators. Robert said, Mary Peterson, the network coordinator, the Williams family wants to thank you personally. Your testimony helped convict the people who stole their life savings. The Williams case had been similar to mine. Adult children exploiting a widowed parent through manufactured emergencies. But unlike me, Mr. Williams hadn't discovered the fraud until after he'd lost everything. How's he doing now?
Better.
The restitution order means he'll get most of his money back eventually. And his daughter is getting the help she needs. Mental health treatment, gambling addiction counseling, and financial management therapy. Sometimes that's all it takes. I thought about Nathan, who was 8 months into his federal sentence. He wrote occasionally letters that seemed genuinely remorseful, unlike his earlier attempts at manipulation. I wrote back sometimes, but I wasn't ready for visits yet. Maybe next year. Robert, there's something else, Mary said. We've been contacted by a television producer. They want to do a documentary about elder fraud, and your case would be featured prominently. I'm not interested in being famous for getting swindled by my own son. It's not about that. It's about fighting back, about protecting other families from what happened to you. After dinner, I drove past Nathan and Lauren's old house. There was a for sale sign in the yard. The divorce had been finalized, and Lauren was in federal prison serving an 8-year sentence. I pulled into my own driveway and sat for a moment, looking at the house Margaret and I had shared for 25 years. It felt less empty now, not full exactly but purposeful. Inside, I found Margaret's picture on the kitchen table. I'd started talking to her again recently, not from grief, but from gratitude. I think you'd approve of the advocacy work, I said to her picture. It's helping people, and it's helping me.
My phone buzzed.
Text message from Mark Sullivan.
Robert, got a new case.
70-year-old woman, grandson asking for $200K for medical emergency.
Want to help?
I looked at Margaret's picture one more time, then typed back.
On my way.
Sometimes the best way to heal from betrayal is to prevent it from happening to someone else. If this story helped you recognize any red flags in your own life, please share it. Sometimes saving one family means saving an entire generation from pain.